Bird on Bears fans, we have a very special treat on today's episode as we talk Chicago Bears upcoming season with NFL tight end Clay Harbor. Let's get into the episode starting now. Now, if you are new to the channel, please like the video. Please subscribe to the page. We do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. It's the only channel talking Bears, how Bears talk. So make sure that you get in tune with us. And talking Bears with us today is a man that, listen, if you're going to talk about the NFL, you might as well talk about somebody that's been in the NFL. So we got to introduce to everybody on the channel, man, Clay Harbor. Clay, how you feeling, man?
I'm doing great. We're only 1 week away from football. Not even 1 week. We're only 6 days away from some Bears football, so that's exciting. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to see what we got this year. I think we're going to do better than everybody thinks, so I'm ready for it.
Yeah, that's literally how I ended up finding you on Twitter. Was I feel like me and you and like Bears Nation were the only ones defending what the Bears were doing because we were kind of paying attention to what the Bears were doing. I mean, let's start there, man. Like, when you listen to a lot of what I've dubbed them the national nerds have said about the Bears, we're going 3-12. We've done nothing for Justin Fields. What's your feeling coming into this season around this Bears team? Because I think you're like a lot of us that's like, I don't know if you guys have seen, but we're not really going out there playing the Chiefs every night.
Exactly. So here's the deal is I think that these guys, they hear a story and then they just repeat it. You know, they're just like these birds that just repeat whatever somebody says. You know, they just keep repeating these stories and they all believe it. But the national news and the media and the analysts, they haven't been to Bears camp. They haven't seen the practice. They haven't really paid attention to the preseason games and watched the players. So what they say is they're going off of Justin Fields from last season. Mm-hmm. Not the same guy. They're going off of rookie fifth round offensive lineman Braxton Jones. You know, we've seen this guy going up against Robert Quinn, who had 18.5 sacks last season, week in and week out in practice, and know this guy can hold up. Yeah. They haven't given them big name wide receivers, but going to practice, watching these guys play, these guys can make plays. These guys can catch the football and run routes. Yeah. So for me, being able to get there and get some eyes on this Bears team, because I wasn't that excited about the team until I went to camp and really saw what they were doing. I would have been one of the guys maybe saying 3-14 too. But when I saw the players and I saw the talent that they had, I'm not saying the Bears are going to win the Super Bowl. What I have said is this is going to be a competitive team. Yeah. And who knows what's going to happen. But I think they're going to be in almost every game they play in, and we'll see which way the ball bounces. But this team will be competitive. They're not going to be going out there and getting blown out every week, giving up 6-7 sacks a week. This team will be better than they were last year. And last year, what? They were 6-11. Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, that's the interesting part, right, for me that stands out, because when you talk about a lot of the criticisms around the Bears, like you said, right, there's a lot of like last year's narratives that are still attached to this team when it's an entirely different regime, and we haven't heard a lot of that when it comes to the Giants, when it comes to the Jets, when it comes to a lot of these other teams, right? Like where do you see the Bears kind of, I guess, offensively, right? Because that's where a lot of people are nitpicking on us. What about Luke Getsy's offense, when you saw it, has stood out most to you from training camp to what you've seen on the field? I like the offense. I think that it's more of a simplistic, and it's more of highlighting the Bears' strengths. Mm-hmm. What are they good at? What can they do? You know, you find your strengths and you attack your opponent's weaknesses. And I think they found their strengths. He's talked to Fields. He knows what balls he likes to throw. He knows what routes he likes to throw. He knows what plays he likes. He knows what his strengths are in the running game. So I think the big thing for me is you're going to have Comet, who's a big tight end who can stay on the field, do a lot more play action. get the ball to him over the middle. You got Mooney, who's going to be a bigger piece this season, even coming off of a 1,000-yard season.
Yeah.
And David Montgomery's back and healthy with Khalil Herbert. These are two top-tier running backs, in my opinion. I think both these guys can make plays and will make plays and run the game hard. So I think they got a good system right now. And the offensive line, it isn't great, but it's not what everybody thinks it is. Everybody thinks it's the worst offensive line in the league. It's not.
Yeah.
These guys are going to do a solid job of protecting, do a solid job of run blocking, good enough for the Bears to have opportunities here with this offense. And I think guys like Dante Pettis, Equinemius St. Brown, Byron Pringle, I know has been hurt for most of camp, but Velus Jones are going to step up and make some plays offensively and really surprise some people. Then midway through the season, I think people are going to see the Bears, hovering around 500 and say, hey, this Bears team, if they keep doing this, they, it's going to be hovering around 500. So that's honestly what I think. And I think Fields, and now you see the media after Fields has that last game, starting to come around and oh, wow, now they went from 1 week. Justin Fields and the offensive line went from the worst team in the league and the worst quarterback in the league to, oh, wow, this guy's really talented and is going to have a great season. Yeah. So let's see what they say after 2 weeks of the season. When the Bears start winning some games.
I felt the same way. I was like, wow, we really went from the 0-16 Lions to a team that's going to have a promising future really quick. It's amazing how one game can do that. It was. I will say this though, right? I think even Bears fans can admit that they got really excited seeing how the offensive line was used. Did you notice a difference? Of course, right, a major difference from last year just because the offensive line is moving as a whole. But when you're watching that Cleveland Browns game, right, are you noticing that they're putting Justin in better positions to be successful, putting the offensive linemen in better positions to be successful, or is it just a better personnel group?
They're putting them in better positions to be successful. Here's the thing. Next week, or not even next week, this week. I keep saying next week.
I know, right?
The Bears are playing the 49ers. And we got Nick Bosa coming in, who's one of the best pass rushers in the game. If you just sit back and drop back, 5-7-step drops and just let Braxton Jones take on Bosa, 5-7-step drops all game, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
You got to use a lot of misdirection. You got to use play action. You got to use double teams. You got to use chips with the running backs and the tight ends, chip them off get out of rhythm. Pass rushers are based on rhythm. Can they get their moves in? You're going to have to do that. And that's something that Eberflus and Getsy understand. They're going to get a rollout here, misdirection, get the defensive ends running. When it gets to third down, when you have to do the straight drop back, that's when you get in trouble. They're going to use some screens to keep the team off balance. You saw that. I saw a great tight end screen last week. You see a couple running back screens. We're going to use screens all over the field to keep these guys off balance. The play calls are good. You're getting Fields out of the pocket on more plays. So the play calling has been better. And, Matt Nagy did not do a good job. I don't like being a Matt Nagy basher because I played with Matt Nagy. He was a great guy. He was quality control for 3 years with me in Philadelphia. And great guy, but he didn't do a good job with Fields his rookie season. He had an offense tailored for Andy Dalton. Fields came in not thinking he was going to play. This year, he had the whole offseason. He's the leader of this team, and an offense that is catered to him, tailored to him. That's going to make a world of difference.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think that's the interesting thing when I was looking at this offense, right? It was such a breath of fresh air for me that a coach said, hey, we're going to run this style of offense. And then you saw them go out there and run this style of offense when Luke Getsy was like, we're going to be a run-heavy team. It's what we have right now. It's the personnel that we have. We're going to be a run-heavy style team.
Yeah.
And then you saw them being run-heavy, but still using Justin's ability to move and get around in space, right? When you watch that kind of offense, right, what's your expectation for Justin Fields this season? Because I've said, right, in a run-heavy offense, you're going to see Justin drop back 25 times a game, and a lot of those passes are going to be short passes. Can we really evaluate who he is as the QB based off of that?
Yeah, I think so. And I think, like you said, this year I don't see him throwing 35 passes a game.
Yeah,
I think they're going to. hand the ball to Montgomery a lot. Honestly, I think Montgomery, I know he was on the NFL top 100, but around the league, he's one of the more underrated guys in the league, in my opinion. I think he's a great running back. And as long as we got David Montgomery, I think we're going to be in a lot of games. To me, he's one of the most special players on this roster. And I think Herbert's good too. So I think Getsy knows he's going to do a good job of take some of that pressure off of Fields, hand the ball off first, establish a run, and then we're going to play off of that. And that's when you're going to see Fields start to make these plays. The one thing I'm so impressed with Fields on from what he did last year.
Yeah.
You see him scrambling. He's not scrambling for those 5-yard gains, those 7-yard gains, 3-yard gains. He is scrambling with his eyes downfield and completing big throws down the field. When you scramble and keep your eyes downfield, look at Patrick Mahomes. How did he hit all these big plays? These big plays were 6-7 seconds after the ball snap. There's not going to be a lot of guys that can guard Darnell Mooney for 6-7 seconds after the ball snap.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like I think that was the biggest detriment of Matt Nagy, is that he would call plays, and even Foles kind of insinuated to this when in his time here, that he would call plays that it took too much time for the play to develop. I feel like this year, right, if the Bears are able to just kind of keep Justin not using his legs every play, but moving around enough in that pocket and being able to step up and get out of the way of pressure, that they'll be a better passing team than what we thought a lot this season, right? Like, I mean, people come in thinking that we're going to be one of the worst passing teams in the NFL, and I just don't see it. Do you see the Bears being a better passing team than the national people have expected?
They will be a better passing team this year, and I think a guy like Cole Komet, I think he's going to be flirting with 1,000 yards this year. I mean, I don't want to get carried away. Let's say last year he had 600-plus yards. Yeah. He's going to have more targets. Yeah. Fields is better. He's going to be up there 800-900 yards this season, in my opinion. And I think Mooney is going to improve on last year. Last year he had almost 1,100 yards. I have Mooney with 1,400 yards this year. I mean, he's going to be a big-time player. I think in the screen game, you're going to see Herbert and Montgomery with big yardage games in the screen game. So I think this team is going to be impressive. I don't think they're going to be a top 10 passing offense, but I see in that middle of the field, 15, 14, 13, somewhere in there, because of Fields' talent, his ability. And he's really worked on that throwing motion. He starts getting out of the field, getting out of the pocket, and connecting with these receivers. You're going to really start to see these numbers in his passing offense look good. Because
you saw Cole Komet right at training camp, and we heard you on, I think you were on Unfiltered with Cap. I think that was the show you were on. And you were talking about kind of how Cole Komet has all these tools, but he hasn't figured out exactly how to put them together yet. Now, after seeing him go through, right, what's been the thing that has clicked most that you've seen for Cole, right? Because it looks like I think everybody can look at Cole and say, no, he looks like he is much more confident in his own game outside of what they're using with him.
My first tweet when I started going to these Bears camps this year was, I go, Cole Komet, this kid is a specimen. I go on the field after Bears camp, and I'm a good friends with, I'm friends with Roquan, I'm friends with Trevor Siemian. Yeah. Me and Siemian used to train together. We run routes in the city, whatever, and I'm out there in camp, we're talking on the field. I also met Cole Komet's dad, and a dude taps me on the shoulder. I turn around, Cole Komet's dad, and it's Cole Komet. I go, this is Cole Komet? I had no idea. I thought he was I'm 6'3" and some change. Yeah. I thought he was 6'3" and some change. Yeah. This guy is 6'6", 6'7", 265 pounds. I'm a big dude. I go, this is Cole Komet? He looks like the guy for Happy Gilmore. Mr. Gilmore. This guy is so big, and to be running like he does and have soft hands. I've played with tight ends, and I don't want to sound crazy, but the only other guy I saw with that skill set and that size, his name was Rob Gronkowski. And I'm not saying, but I'm saying that is the only other player I've seen to be that big and to move like that. Yeah. And Cole Komet has got all the tools, all the skills, the ability. I saw some things, press coverage outside. He struggled with getting off. But when he's got a linebacker or safety on him inside, nobody was guarding him. Yeah. I think this year is going to click for him. And I think he's going to have a huge year. I think he's going to be one of the better tight ends in the league in his career. And the thing I like about Comet, too, is he's not a guy that's going to lead to tendencies. And what I mean by that is when you have a tight end, say like the Jaguars this year, the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yep.
They have Evan Ingram. They have Chris Manhertz. They have Luke Farrell and Dan Arnold. They got all these guys on the team who are going to play and fill these roles because Dan Arnold is like the do-it-all guy. Chris Manhertz is the blocking guy. Evan Ingram's the receiving guy. Cole Komet can do all that.
Yeah.
Well, now you don't start showing tendencies when you have a certain personnel in the game. You can't really key on certain plays because Komet, you can run the ball to him. If you see Evan Ingram on the line in the right side, they're not going to run the ball to strength. I promise you, watch where they will not run the ball to the right side unless it's a sift where he sifts back across line of scrimmage and takes on the backside linebacker, or he arc releases and blocks the safety. Komet can block the point of attack. You can do a play action to him. He's going to slip behind the linebackers. They're going to believe it. They're going to step up. He's a guy that can do everything, and that's going to make their offense tendency free. When you have a guy like Komet that can do everything, it's going to help Fields, it's going to help Montgomery, it's going to help all of them. I'm really excited about this.
Justin feels like that's the guy that has to be unlocked. Like, if you're going to figure one guy out, it has to be Cole Komet, especially in a run-heavy style offense, right? Like I said, a lot of short passes over the middle, a lot of stuff that's going to be like, all right, Cole, be big and knock those dudes out going the other way, right? Like,
you got to, for me, yes. Cole Komet is one of the biggest keys to the Bears this season. He's got to develop. He's got to be a star tight end. And I'm counting on that. That's one of the things when I'm telling people, saying, hey, this team is going to be much better than you think.
Yeah.
It's because I've seen this guy. I've seen a lot of tight ends in my career. I've played with a lot of tight ends in my career. Brent Zellick, Zach Ertz, Eric Ebron, Kobe Fleener, Rob Gronkowski, Martellus Bennett. I mean, there's countless tight ends I've seen. This guy is special.
Yeah.
He's big, he can catch. For the Bears to be successful this year, you got to have big-time production from Komet. Because obviously you got Mooney. You got to have Komet step up.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a number of guys filling in that second, wide receiver role, I feel like. Velus Jones, I like his quickness. I like his speed. I think his hands need some work. He's not a real great hands catcher yet. I think Pringle, he's shown he can make plays. He had good numbers with the Chiefs last year. He's been hurt a lot, but I think he can play. Equinemi St. Brown's been in and out with injuries, but he made some plays early in camp. And honestly, a guy I like that I would love to see get some burn in the regular season is Pettis. Pettis is a route runner.
Yeah. Watching
him in camp, this guy's I go, who is this guy? The first time I go, who's this guy running routes like that? This guy's incredible. And look him up. It's Dante Pettis. He's had a rough career, but this guy can play. He can run routes.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say you can only do this because in your past you haven't done something.
Yeah.
He was a second-round draft pick for a reason, top 40 draft pick in the league for a reason. He's fast. He runs 4.3 something. This guy can make plays. To me, I know you got Pringle. Pettis, I would love to see Pettis as the second wide receiver out there. I like Pettis that much. And David Montgomery, obviously, you could keep giving him the ball. And I think Montgomery and Komet, I'm counting. When I'm saying the Bears are going to be, I'm counting on those two guys to be what I think they can. I think they both can be bona fide stars.
Do you like what the Bears did this offseason and kind of going with the, hey, we got some guys on this offense that we want to see what they can do in year one, right? We got some upside guys, possibly. This guy could turn into this guy could turn into that. Where on the offensive line and on the defensive line, they've gone with more of those proven guys. Those guys, okay, like, we're going to put him in here, and we know that he's going to be able to stand in here and get to the quarterback. Or we know that he's going to be able to stand in here like Lucas Patrick and protect Justin Fields. Do you like that they kind of went with the projects on Justin's weapon, or were you somebody that felt like you got to get this kid more weapons right away?
I like what they did, and I think they're building it the right way. And people are saying the Bears, Colin Cowherd, the Bears don't have a plan. The Bears don't have a plan. And, you know, like, what is this guy talking about?
That's my bane of existence guy right there.
Look at their salary cap next year.
Yeah.
And if the Bears beat you this year, you're in trouble because they're going to keep getting better.
Yeah.
They're young. Comet's 23. Fields is 23. Mooney's 24. Roquan's only 25. I mean, this is a young team. To me, they have the biggest plan of any of these other teams. They got the most money next season to do whatever with. But, you know, we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that bridge when we cross it.
Yeah.
But I think this team has some guys. They're giving guys an opportunity to play and show what they can do. And I think a lot of them will step up. I like that they kept a lot of these young O-linemen. I like the fact you're giving a lot of these young receivers some time to develop. And then as far as you're talking about their defense, I think Travis Gibson's going to have a great year this year. You know, last year he had 7 sacks and 9 starts. He was one of the top-rated PFF pass rushers last year, top 20. You wouldn't have known that. So I think they're going to get some pressure on this defense. You got to realize that this as well. The Bears were the worst team in the league against the pass last year, pass rating.
Yeah.
They had the worst pass rating against in the defense. People didn't want the Bears to draft secondary. Did you guys not watch the games? They had to draft secondary.
I was trying to figure out what people were watching. I was like, the only guy, like, I think this is how I feel. I think Jalen Johnson is a really good player.
Yeah.
But I don't actually know because they didn't have to throw the ball at him a lot because the other side was open.
Yeah. To me, I'm like, they're giving Poles a hard time. Did you guys watch the games? This team was just it was like 7-on-7 against the Bears. I mean, they were just completing passes, the worst pass rating against the entire league. And they're giving him a hard time for drafting these 2 defensive players. And I think these guys are going to be bona fide stars as well.
Yeah.
Brisker's looking great. Kyler Gordon's been unhealthy, but he got to play in the last preseason game. He's looking good.
Yeah.
I think that this defense is going to be much better. They got a big test right off the bat this year. So I think it'll be good to see what they can do.
Here's the thing, right, that we've talked about a lot of these young guys coming in. The Bears are mostly young guys when you look at this roster, like very young. Have you experienced that in your time? Is it easier to play with young guys because, you know, they're younger, easier to coach, maybe able to actually execute the plays because they're young enough to do them? Or do you like having more of the veteran presence there because you already know what's going on, especially with a change of regime like we've just had?
I think with the change of regime, it's better to have young players because you got guys that are stuck in their ways. It's a little harder to coach, and you start to get some dissension there. So I think it's good that they have such a young team. They went from one of the oldest teams last year to one of the youngest teams this year.
Yeah,
and I love that. I mean, you could run with more energy. Nobody has these preconceived notions of how something's got to be done.
Yeah, and
it really gives the staff a chance to come in and really set up their identity. And I think Eberflus has done a good job of that. So I love the fact that they're young.
What's the biggest thing that Coach Flus can establish early in this season that's going to give the players, right? Like if you're a tight end on this team currently, what's the thing that you would want to see him establish early in this season that's going to be like, oh, I think this guy's going to work out. I think this is a long-term move here.
Well, I like to talk offense, and obviously, Eberflus is a defensive guy, but make sure that you stick with what you said.
Yeah.
I want this Bears team to be that run-first style. Philadelphia Eagles last year, they made the playoffs. They didn't have this crazy roster. They snuck in the playoffs with, obviously, Jalen Hurts, right? Justin Fields, I think, will probably be better than Jalen Hurts was last season.
I would hope so.
They had one big-time receiver last year. I mean, they had Rager on the field.
Yeah.
They had Quez Watkins, and they had Devonta Smith, who's a rookie. That's similar to the Bears. They had a good tight end. Bears got a good tight end. They had a better offensive line. But I think something like that, the Eagles were the #1 rushing team in the league, and that helps when you have this mobile quarterback, obviously Patrick Stats, but that makes you harder to guard, harder to defend against. So they use this rushing attack to really open up the game and have some play action passes. I think that's the kind of run game and pass game and offense you really need to establish there.
That's going to be so interesting to see, right? And especially, I think the one thing that we've seen at a minimum in preseason, I get it's very vanilla. It's not everything, right? But I feel like we've seen the Bears adjust more in 3 preseason games than we saw in a lot of the tenure last season. You know what I mean? Like, do you feel like just the knowledge of these coaches is going to is understanding, right? Luke Getsy coming from the Packers organization, and all of a sudden, this is how we ran things there. We're going to run it that way here. Do you feel like that's an advantage for the Bears coming into this season, especially with these young guys and a young quarterback?
Absolutely. I think so. Eberflus is a first-time head coach, but he's been on so many teams, and he knows the game, and he knows how it's supposed to look and how it's supposed to be ran. So that gives me a lot of confidence. He's been in so many systems that I'm confident in this, guys. And I think the players are too. He knows how special this opportunity is because he's put in his time. He's not super young and trying to come in and reinvent the wheel here. He's going to stick to it. He's going to find what his guys do well, and he's going to stick to it. And that's what gives me a lot of confidence in this team. Is a guy like him, and you got a guy like Getsy who spent a lot of time with, as much as we hate to say it, a winning organization like Green Bay. And he knows what works too for an offense. And obviously he was working with Aaron. Yeah, I know.
It's like
And they're a winning franchise, but not for long because, Justin Fields coming up for young guy. We're gonna get it done this year and next year and keep growing. But I think those coaches really help the Bears to just have this sense of, comfort within the organization. With guys that have been there and guys that have experience. I think that's special, especially when you have a young team.
That's the one word I feel like we've heard from all the players a lot too. Like, I'm comfortable. I feel comfortable. Justin has talked about being comfortable in the pocket, being comfortable rolling outside. Cole Komet talking about how he was more comfortable. I feel like that's the one thing that, and maybe it's just because it's a new regime and it's different, but that seems to be the thing, that the word that we've heard the most from a lot of these young players. Even Braxton Jones, first time playing in the NFL, going up against Robert Quinn. He's like, it took me a minute, but then I felt comfortable out there at that position. So I like that.
Yeah, these guys know what works, and they've seen a lot of football in their day. They've seen a lot of professional football. So I love that. They know how to run the team. And being at camp, I really did see some great things from this coaching staff. Everything was fast. Everything was up tempo, but they took time to teach. All right, go full speed. I love that. And I mean, looking at a guy like Braxton Jones. Braxton Jones was an FCS player last year. He was playing against Division I AA, FCS, whatever you want to say. I'm an FCS guy. And now he's going to be starting against Nick Bosa first round. You got to make this guy comfortable. You got to have a good system if you feel like you're in a position to put him out there to start. And I think he'll do better than a lot of people think. When people look at the O-line and they say, they're not going to be successful, I think a lot of people are looking at Braxton Jones at left tackle and they go, oh, you got a rookie left tackle. But we've seen him throughout the preseason. I've seen him throughout the preseason. Obviously, when the lights come on and it's Sunday and the bullets are flying, it's a different feel, it's a different vibe. But I think he's going to do a good job, and I'm looking forward to watching him this year and seeing what happens.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate you for tuning in. Before we let you go, Clay, what is your expectation of the Bears? Where do you see this team ending up? What's their final record when it's all said and done?
I think they're going to be near. Obviously, you can't be 500 anymore.
Yeah, it's still weird.
Odd number of games, I know. But I would say like an 8-9, maybe 9-8. Okay. Something like that. 7-10. 10-7, somewhere around there. I want to see how these first couple games are going to be hard. You got the Niners and the Packers, are two of the best teams in the entire NFC. So even if they start 0-2. I'm not going to jump off a bridge because I know, hey, it's going to get easier. Your next two games I think are against the Giants, and I got to look at the schedule once we get in there. But they're much easier. So improve, grow these first couple of games, and I think they could be a 500 team. Seeing how the playoffs, situation, they could be on the outskirts of the playoffs. They could maybe win a couple. The ball bounces their way. but they're definitely not going to be 3-14. I know that much from seeing this. You got talent. You got Justin Fields as your quarterback. You got a great tight end. I think the defense is going to be much better this year. So I am looking for a 500 around team this year in Chicago, and then building on something to where for years to come, you're just going to see this constant improvement. We found our franchise quarterback, and we're going to continue putting pieces around him, having the most cap space in the entire league next year.
Yeah.
Almost doubling the second place team. So for me, it's a very exciting time to be a Bears fan.
Oh, for sure. I think I looked through the schedule, same like everybody else did, and I'm like, we're not worse than the Texans. We're not worse than the Giants. We're not worse than Commanders. Might be tough. That one might be a tough one for us. But like, and we always play the Cowboys pretty well, even at our worst. We usually play the Cowboys pretty well. So I think I'm right with you on 9-8. I predicted the Bears go 9-8, but I wouldn't be mad at 7-10. Like, I feel like that's growth, right?
Growth.
And that's the goal of the season, man. Clay, I appreciate you for joining us, man. We got your Twitter on the screen, but anything you want to let the people know where they can find you, things you got going on, what's going on with you, man?
Just follow me on Twitter. I'll be making a couple of cool announcements coming up this week and next week about some cool podcasting I'm going to be doing in the NFL world. But yeah, besides that, just follow me on Twitter, and we'll be talking Bears all year long.
I love it. I love it. I appreciate you for tuning in, and we appreciate you guys for watching the show. Make sure you comment below and let us know how you guys feel about the Chicago Bears coming into this season. Week 1 is like 5 days away.
Let's go.
Let's go. Football's back. That's all that matters. Football's back. I've been watching college. I've been watching pros. It don't matter. Hey, as always, man, it's your boy, Pat the Designer, back at it again. To continue watching our Chicago Bears content, click the links on the screen to check the links in the description below. And make sure you leave 5 stars on the podcast side. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Peace.